Hi, in this video, I'll show you how to add subtitles to an MP4 video. We'll look at 4 different ways of doing this: a WebVTT track, an SRT file converted with FFmpeg, captions burned into the video itself, and a couple of broadcast formats you'll occasionally run into. And then towards the end, I'll show you how the ImageKit video player SDK handles all of this with a single array. Let's start with what subtitles actually are. A subtitle file is just a list of cues. Each cue has a start time, an end time, and some text. What changes between the formats is which players will accept the file and how much styling and positioning it supports. There are 2 ways to deliver them. The first is a sidecar file, a separate file sitting next to your video, which the player loads and draws on top of the frame. This is called soft sub, and it can be toggled on and off and translated. The second is burning the text into the video pixels at encode time. That one is permanent, but it works everywhere. Let's start with the first approach, which is a WebVTT track. This is what a VTT file looks like. There's a VTT header at the top, then a blank line, and then the cues: start time, an arrow, end time, and the text underneath. To use it, you add a track element inside your video element, 1 per language. Each one points at a VTT file and takes a source language, a label, and optionally a default attribute. And that's it. The browser reads whichever track you marked as default, renders the text, and adds a CC button to its own controls, listing every track by its label. No JavaScript and no plugin. This is different from chapters. With chapters, the browser will parse your file and then not draw anything, so you end up having to build the interface yourself. Subtitles get a real native interface in every major browser. And if you already have a player, the shape of the data stays the same. Video.js takes a tracks array with those same 5 fields. HLS.js only handles the manifest, so your track elements keep working exactly as they are. And if your playlist already declares subtitles inside the manifest, HLS will pick them up automatically. There is one thing to note. Browsers will not render an SRT file in a track element, only VTT, and almost every transcription tool you might be using exports SRT by default. If you look at the 2 formats side by side, they're nearly identical. There are only 2 differences. SRT has no header line, and its timestamps use a comma before the milliseconds instead of a period. Because of this, you need to convert it using FFmpeg. You point it at the SRT file, name the output as a VTT, and that's it. And if you have a folder of them, you can wrap that in a shell loop and convert all of them in one pass. The output goes straight into the track element you already have. Nothing else in the code changes. The third option is burning the subtitles into the video, which means the text becomes part of the pixels. Now, for a normal player, this is worse. You lose the ability to toggle them and you lose language switching. But there are places where a sidecar file simply won't be read. A muted autoplay video on a landing page, a social clip going to a platform whose player ignores tracks, a background loop on a marketing site. If your viewer is never going to see your player controls, burning the captions in is the only way they'll read them. FFm takes the subtitle file as a video filter and re-encodes with the text drawn on top. And if you want it to match your brand, there's a force style string where you can set the font, the size, the color, and the outline. There are 2 costs to keep in mind here. This is a full re-encode, so it takes time and CPU usage, and the output is a single language. So if you need English and Spanish, that's 2 separate files. The 4th option you'll run into much less often: TTML, and its constraint profile, IMSC, are XML based, and they show up in broadcast in Dash and in Apple's MP4 subtitle path on iOS and tvOS. Browsers won't render them in a video element, so the answer is to convert them to VTT. Advanced Substation Alpha is a much richer styled format, with positioning, per-line fonts, and karaoke effects. Browsers won't render that either, so you either convert it and accept that most of the styling is lost, or you burn it in. FFm reads that format natively. For a normal web workflow, you'll almost never see these. So the formats themselves are quite simple. Where the real work sits is everything around them. Somebody has to transcribe the video. If you need more than 1 language, somebody has to translate it. When the video gets re-encoded or trimmed or replaced, the VTT file has to travel with it, including the URL your track element points at. You may need different formats for different surfaces, and the cues have to be timed properly. For a marketing site with 1 feature video, or a doc site with the occasional tutorial, that's quite a lot of infrastructure for a feature that should take an afternoon. So let me show you how ImageKit handles this. There are two ways ImageKit helps here. The first is just hosting. You put the MP4 and the VTT file on ImageKit, and you keep whatever player you already have. It's easy to forget that the subtitle file is a separate request. The player still has to go and fetch it before it can draw a single caption. If that file is coming from somewhere slower than the video, your captions turn up a bit late on first play. Serving both from the same place keeps them in sync. Now let's look at the SDK. First, you install the video player package. After that, it's a single component. You import the player, you import its style sheet, and you pass it a source object. That object holds two things, the URL of your video and a text tracks array. Now let's look at what's inside each track. There's src, kind, src lang, label, and default. Those are the same. You'll see the same 5 fields from the track element we looked at earlier. And that's the whole integration. As you can see, the CC button is now in the control bar. The English track is already showing because that's the one marked as default. And switching between the 3 tracks takes no code from me. The menu is part of the player. Let me open that menu and switch over to the English CC track. Now there's a speaker name on the first line and bracketed notes describing what's happening on screen. That's the main difference between captions and subtitles. Now, if you'd rather not handle transcription at all, you can replace the source field on a track with auto-generate set to true. ImageKit will transcribe the video for you. You can turn on highlight words to get word level highlighting as each word is spoken, use max jars to control how quickly the subtitles change, and pass a translations array to get additional languages without a translator. This one is a paid extension. It's 2 units per minute of source video, and that's billed once for subtitles and chapters together, rather than per feature. Each translated language is 2 more units per minute. I'll leave a link to the pricing below. You can also mix the two. In practice, that looks like having an auto-generated track for quick coverage and one hand-authored track for your primary language in the same array. So, to summarize, if you're building for the web and you're happy with the browser's own captions menu, a WebVTT file and a track element is good enough. If your transcription tool gives you a SRT file, 1 line of FFmpeg converts it. And if your video is going somewhere that ignores tracks, burn the captions in. Finally, if you want the captions menu to automatically match your player and have the option to move to AI-generated tracks later without changing your integration, ImageKit's video player SDK handles all of it from just one array. Whichever route you take, your source of truth should be a VTT or an SRT file. Everything I showed you is in the blog and demo repo linked below. If you'd like to try this on a video you already have, you can sign up for a free ImageKit account and get started today.